Hello and welcome. Welcome to Heart Magic Healing. I am Angela Shakti Sparks, and I'm with my beautiful and amazing business partner, Amanda Korger. And this video that we are going to be sharing both on YouTube and our membership is the discussion piece of what we call our vibrational activation workshops. And so this one in particular is called Fearless and Worthy. So it's all about moving through fear and really embodying your true worthiness. And we are feeling called, so if you are a member, Heart Magic Healing member, you get access to all of our activations. We do one a month, and our soul frequency spas, and those are in our membership library. For this particular video, we are sharing this on YouTube. This is just the discussion piece of the vibrational activation. So all of our vibrational activation workshops start with a discussion piece around the topic. Then we move into the actual energy activation. It's just a guided meditation, working with the sound healing tools that Amanda and I utilize. And then we always close it out with practices that you can then take out into the world and work with to continue working with that theme. So this particular video is going to be just the discussion piece. And if you find this information helpful, we appreciate any heart-centered donations on Venmo. And of course, we always invite you to join our community as well and join our membership, and you get access to all of these vibrational activations, as well as the soul frequency spas and a wonderful growing community. All right, so anything else to add, Amanda, or are you ready to kick it off with our discussion?
Yeah, I think part of my favorite thing about the membership is just the ability to come back to those recordings whenever you feel called, because the thing is, we go through these layers, and so something that is coming through in this video, you might be called to different parts of it at different times with those layers, or it might be that the activation itself is helping you move through the energetic piece of all of those layers. And so I'll just mention that in there, that come back to this whenever it feels right to you, because it's probably a sign there's something else here for you. Maybe it's just a reminder that, hey, you're working on another piece of this. This is something that's coming up again. And each time that we come back to those layers, I know when I started on this journey, I was like, why is this here again? Like, didn't I already do this? But it feels like, it's time to mention that each time we come back, we're coming back with a different perspective, and we're at a different place. And so there's always something else here for us. Would you agree with that, Angela?
Absolutely. In fact, just this morning, I was listening to our shadow work vibrational activation again, because I've had some things coming up and I'm like, okay, this is ready to be resolved. And so I will go back. I go back and work with all of ours, just depending on what is coming up and what I'm being guided to do. So yes, I love that you brought that up.
Yeah. So for today, we are moving through fear. But in order to move through fear, we have to be able to identify the fear first. And sometimes that can take a little bit of practice. Sometimes we don't even fully realize that we're in fear. And so how do we identify this fear? If it's not that obvious, like frozen like deer in a headlights, what other ways come up that help us identify that, oh, I really am afraid to take this next step? And so one of the things that came to us is really around perfectionism. Who here has said, it's not good enough? I'm not ready to put that out. No, I need to make changes because it's not right yet. It's not good enough. That is something that Angela and I both resonate with. We've both had that before. And it can be one of the ways that fear presents itself in your life. And so sometimes to move through it, I know I personally have been asked to put something out there with a mistake that I noticed like right after it's out there. And I'm like, oh no, like what did I just do? And then I have to fix it. But it was like, you know what? I needed to get it out there. Some part of it really needed to be out there for somebody to hear. And I think it also reminds me of that judgment piece, right? Like, okay, everybody makes mistakes. And yeah, it's okay when we make those mistakes. And people will get what they need from it too. So perhaps noting where you find yourself in that perfectionism streak and where are you delaying something because it feels like you need to do something else, or maybe you need another certification. That's something we have been taught, like, oh, I'm not good enough for that. I didn't have the background. That was me when I started switching over to tuning forks. Like, I went to college for banking and finance, and I was like, I don't have a background in health and stuff. So catch yourself in that too. Where do you feel like you're not ready to share your gifts? Like, you're not good enough, so to speak, to share your gifts with the world. Anything you want to add on that piece, Angela?
Yeah, that shiny object, or it's like, yeah, I'm so guilty of this. I have so many certifications, it's not even funny. And really, at the end of the day, I am working with things that are being channeled through me, coming through from spirit, from from my guides.
Yeah.
And I mean, those the certifications, some of the tools I learned are helpful, but am I using them verbatim? For me personally, I am not. I'm kind of have compiled all of it and work with, like again, things that come through me. So again, it's that learning to trust in your own, now sometimes it works for people to do a certification, but then again, do you need 10 of them, or is there that one that resonates? Get good at it and then put it out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So the next way we have for you to help identify fear in your life is, where are you noticing worry and doubt? Where is the worry and doubt coming through? And is that perhaps an underlying fear? And worry could be, that needing to kind of control. And if I'm not controlling this piece, who is, and what's going to happen? And is it going to be what I want? And is it going to work out? And how is it going to impact me? Noticing some of that worry, or doubting, like that's not going to happen, like, and not believing in it. There's maybe a fear underneath because maybe it doesn't feel safe to take that next step, so you just doubt that it's even possible. Anything else that you feel called to add on that one, Angela?
No, I think I think worry and doubt are pretty common common
Yeah.
ones. And and a lot of these, so I'm going to be talking about judgment here. And so I would say the only thing I'm worried about, so a lot of these things are programmed into us. And so we're programmed to worry and actually, like wired in some way, on some level, for those survival, things that we need to be aware of to survive. And so it's being able to move beyond that survival mode, I think, is what's coming up there for that. And then judgment. So fear of being judged. This is a big one for me, I know. And just, I have held myself back so much because I'm afraid of what other people are going to think. And so just, learning to take that risk, take that step, be vulnerable a little bit. And also, I think one of the things that helps me is I see other people, I go on to YouTube and I see other people sharing the same or similar gifts that I have to share. And so, can you look in the world around you and say, okay, so here's another person doing it, and look at all the people that they have that are reaching out and in appreciation. And yes, of course, you see those comments on there. You're not going to resonate with everybody, and just learning to be okay with that, and learning to trust in your own gifts. And so here again, when this vibrational activation, starting to learn to move beyond that fear and really stand in your worthiness. But judgment is definitely something that, again, programmed, right? And so learning to move beyond that programming. Anything to add here, Amanda?
Yeah, I almost just am piecing together, like we mentioned perfectionism as one, and as I'm noticing like the judgment listening to you talk about it, it's also like, is that perfectionism, that fear of being judged too? So I'm just
Yeah.
hearing a little bit of the combination of the two going together. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because when you were talking about perfectionism, I almost wanted to jump in and kind of tie them together. I definitely do think they tie together. And then, another thing is talk about the survival. We can also have the fear energy not only from past experiences in this lifetime, but we can have fear from our past life experiences and also our family line. It's brought in through the family. I mean, think about how abuse, right, is kind of passed down, and so is this fear. So if you have a lot of the energy of lack in the family, if financial abundance has not been there, that can come through, or just like women being expected to be a certain way and do certain things, and there's an energy around that gets passed down from the mother to the children. And so know that some of these fears can be passed down, or have a genetic imprint or a DNA imprint from past lives. I tend to believe that if you have phobias of like water or fire, sometimes you probably died drowning or getting burned in a past life. So taking that into consideration also, which is why it's important to do the healing work. Yes.
Yeah. One of the things that I really felt aligned for me once I dove into this energy work was, they say like diseases get passed down, or certain things like diabetes is one that seems to be, or like heart conditions seem to be passed down. And what comes for me is that the energy behind those is what's getting passed down. And so then it's
Yep.
more likely to present in multiple people. Yeah,
Yes,
absolutely.
and epigenetics, above the genes, you don't have to express those things, and that's why again, why do we do this energy work? You don't have to have the heart disease just because somebody in your family did. You can do the clearing work. You can manage your energies and not express that. So you can, energy can easily transform from form to another. Our physical body is the densest, but when we work at the energetic levels, change happens very fast. And so if we continue to clear the energies, work with these healing energies, you don't have to express these diseases, and you can rise above and clear and move through these energetic patterns that have in the past held you back.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think that kind of wraps up our fear piece. And the next piece that we felt was really important to tie into this conversation is noticing when you feel unworthy. And we'll continue into how this fear and unworthiness are kind of go together and kind of hold us back from stepping into our power. And so, Angela, what are some of the things we talked about for feeling unworthy, and how to identify that in our life?
Yeah, again, I think this is programmed into us. I think about when I was growing up, my father clearly had some verbal abuse in his family, and so it was like nothing was ever good enough. And so, I often was told that I wasn't good enough, and was blamed for things that went wrong in his life, got blamed on me, including my parents' marriage. And so, I was really made to feel very unworthy in life. And, I felt like just what I say, the things I do just don't matter, because I was shown that they didn't. I wasn't valued for the things I said. In fact, I was told to shut up a lot and to not ask questions, and to, don't cry and don't show emotions. And so it's like nothing I did was, of any value, I felt.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a tough place to be. And one that is common, I think. And yeah, I just hold space for all of that. I can see parts of that in my life too, for sure. So yeah, noting where do you feel like what you say and do doesn't matter.
Yeah, and sometimes it's what's coming up is sometimes, I mean, for me it was said, but sometimes it's in what's not said too. That, just the parent who maybe um, they're not saying these things to you that make you feel unworthy, but maybe they're also not just giving you validation and not praising you for the good things that you do. Even like the silence or the non-affection is another way that we can be made to feel unworthy.
Yeah, and I think that validation is the one that I probably notice more of, is me seeking validation and me saying like, okay, I'll do this because I was really looking for that validation, and I was seeking love from that validation. That was a big factor in my life. And so now, as an adult, where am I still looking for that validation? Whether it's, looking for that response in a text message or looking for a comment on a post or a video or something like that. All the little ways that we are looking for, like, oh, yes, somebody else liked this. Great. Okay. It's what I needed to do. And that has been a big factor for me, is looking for external validation as a sign of me feeling unworthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when you don't feel, like what you say and do matters, it can lead to this. I'm guilty here as well. In fact, I would, I feel like I've compromised some of my truth in seeking external validation throughout my life, whether that was, the attention of a romantic partner, or, again, with my parents or teachers, trying to have to prove myself. And sometimes, again, I feel like compromise my truth, compromise my values, just seeking that validation. So, if we can really move beyond this and remember and embody that worthiness, I just feel like it's gonna, it just opens up the pathways for you to really embody your truth as well, and authenticity, and live in integrity with the truth of who you are.
Yeah. And I think, part of what I did when I was really seeking the external validation is I was overdoing. So,
Mhm.
the term busy mom or whatever, it was always like, oh, I need to take care of the dishes and I need to make sure I do the laundry and I need to make sure the kids have their stuff packed in. Every little thing, it was me like, go, go, go. I had all of this stuff to do. And it was difficult for me to just step back and rest at times, for me to fully listen to my body. And it turned into just exhaustion and always feeling tired and overwhelmed and such. And so it almost feels like there's that connection between me looking for external validation and feeling tired and overwhelmed, and like I'm not doing enough. And Angela, I know I've heard you have troubles with that. Do you feel called to share any of your challenges there?
Yeah, and then something else is coming through too. But yeah, I've always had this little nagging voice that tends to, whenever I do want to take a day. I mean, I actually still don't ever take rarely a full day off. But even when I do, just for an afternoon, sometimes I still find this nagging voice. It's like, oh, you should be doing this or that. And, I think that's this other way that we may not think of that as unworthiness, but it is on some degree, like why, I guess, like why do I feel like I need to be doing that?
Yeah.
Maybe questioning that. But what also is coming through here. So I just had a friend who somebody they know committed suicide, and there was another woman. I think this happened last year, who did, and she was a busy mom. And I feel like sometimes people think like you said, Amanda, it's like you feel like you have to be doing this. You feel obligated to do this, and it's, if you're not doing it, then you're a failure, or not good enough. And I just think it's so important to take a moment here and realize, like, one, like, ask for support when you need it, and know that you're not supposed to be doing all of it, and you're definitely not supposed to be doing it all alone. Like, I'm amazed that at women that can juggle all those things, several kids and work, and like, you're not meant to do that alone. Past cultures didn't do that alone. They did it, they had the family supporting them, that the kids would get watched by the ancestors if the parents were going to be doing something. It's like the whole family unit was involved. And I have some family in Panama. Well, now they're in Dominican Republic, but they those family units, they are not doing it alone. They are doing it together. And I think here in America, especially, this is something that we need to, take a look at, and not go this path alone.
Yeah, and if you have challenges with your biological family, what your family looks like is up to you. Who's your tribe? It doesn't have to be biological family that you're reaching out to. Find those that you feel like lift you up, and maintain those connections. And yeah, that I'm just gonna add that in there too, is find those connections.
Yes, and I'm glad you add that, because like my mom has passed away, and so I've learned to rely more on friendships now, and just having a couple core people that you can reach out to when you need to talk about something, is so important.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I think now that we have helped you find ways to identify fear and unworthiness in your life, we really want to help you step into your power. And so in this part of this discussion, we're first going to take a moment to talk about, well, we called it old power, and it still is existing at some level, and it's shifting. And so for years, decades, it has been a bit more masculine. And I want to say that masculine and feminine both hold a place. The balance is ultimately what we're going for, and it has been swung too far one way. And so this power has felt like controlling and manipulative and self-serving. And so when we think about stepping into our power, many of us are still holding on to that old programming of power looks like being controlling and manipulative and self-serving. And that is not the power that we're talking about stepping into as we go farther into this conversation. Anything you feel called to add there, Angela?
Yeah, and I just, what's coming up is, there's the masculine, the feminine, and definitely out of balance, with the patriarchy that we're in, and this. But I would say it's even within. So there is a beautiful divine masculine energy, and I think that like that needs to be healed too. Like the things that men are going through right now as well. My husband, it's like it's some of the things that we as women do to support each other. There's not these support systems for men, and they're told to suck it up, be a man. They also not showing emotion is weak. So when we talk about the masculine and feminine power, like it's still for both men and women. This all needs to be healed and brought back into balance. And, so that each of us can embody the qualities of both the divine feminine and the divine masculine.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. So now that we've talked a little bit about the old power, let's talk about what true power looks like. Let's help redefine that. And the first point that we want to make is it's more about, let's look at enabling versus empowering. And the phrase that came to mind with this was if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. But if you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime, because he has now got that ability, right? And so, in what ways are you helping empower people with your gifts, or in what ways are you helping them continue on their own, rather than having to be that old, like, controlling, manipulative, like, oh, I'll give you a fish. Here, I've taken care of you today. Now come back tomorrow and I'll need you to do this for another fish type of thing. So yes, let's bring in that, using it to really empower others as well. And as we empower each other, we really lift each other up. Anything to add there, Angela?
Yes. So as an empath, one of the things that we do as empaths is take on other people's energy. And we do this, we start doing this from the time we're children with our parents and other people. I took on my father's anger, my mother's sadness, and really everybody's energy up until the time I realized. And so, now that I'm aware, I have a lot of practices I work with so that I do that. But sometimes, every once in a while, I'll catch I like unknowingly, or I'm not aware of it until like I've done it. And it's like, oh, somebody feels, sad, or something's going on in their life. And I'm like, oh, like, it hurts me to see somebody else sad. And so I might unconsciously take on a little bit of their hurt or their pain, or let them take a little bit of my energy. And again, I will, once I realize it, I stop it. But just remembering that when you take on somebody else's pain for them, you are not doing them a favor. And so even moving beyond just the empath example, say that somebody is in pain, and you're trying to help them, but you're doing something where it's like it's not really helping them move through it. Like maybe it's like distracting them from moving through it, or you start doing so many things for them that they don't have to then do anything for themselves. Like, say you start just taking care of everything for them, and it's like, well, like, they have this experience to learn to deal with, and it's okay to support them. But it's when you are, like, taking that power away from them, working through it, how can you support them without just taking on everything for them? So then they're not doing anything at all. Now they're just, they just get to sit back, and then they can maybe use that grief or sadness or anger to then, make excuses for the way they behave, or not having to move forward in life. Is that making sense how I'm explaining that?
Yes.
Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying, and words are not describing it at the moment. But yes, I can definitely think of experiences like that, and so maybe it's just sitting with. And I guess what one thing that came through comes back to saying yes when you fully mean yes, and saying no when you mean no, and always doing what feels best for you is really what's best for the whole. And yeah, when you follow your true authentic self, you're empowering others to follow their true authentic self. And each lesson that we've lined up in this lifetime, like, if we don't do our part, we're not helping the other person learn a lesson. They're having to repeat it in another way, and we're having to repeat ours in another way too. Is that perhaps kind of what you're talking about as well, Angela?
Yeah. And then now that you said those things, so, one of the places I see this is when people get an illness. And so, somebody gets an illness, and then rather than that person looking at what is the emotional cause of this illness that I'm experiencing, what do I need to change and do in my life? Sometimes people come in and they just start doing everything for them, and then that person is just like, oh, yes, just do everything for me. Yes, I'm disabled now. I'm sick. I can't do all these things. And it's like, okay, yes, you are sick, but and maybe part of getting that sickness was because you weren't asking for support when you needed it. And now you're getting taken care of. And now you're just like, okay, well, great. Now I'm getting taken care of. So now if I keep my illness, then I get to keep getting taken care of. Well, that's really not serving anybody in that situation. It's not helping the person really get better. And then it's just now this other person is having to, compromise and maybe not ask for what they need anymore. Or now maybe they're over giving. So it just gets really out of balance.
Yeah. So I guess maybe to just kind of wrap this up a little bit for people, it's seeing everyone as one, and being the purest version of yourself is the best way to serve humanity. Yeah. And then the last piece, so how do you identify being the purest version of yourself and use that as your guiding light? And for this, it's really that the power comes from your heart. It is loving and gentle and just. And sit with your definition of loving. I know this is something that I was really called to. And can there be any firmness? I know something that I really had to practice for a while was I have firm yet loving boundaries. And that means that this is really and boundaries is again, how can I love you and me simultaneously? And so this is really what I need to have happen for me to love you and me simultaneously. And I can be firm in that so that I can maintain that love. Anything you feel called to add there, Angela?
Yeah, there's something coming up just around that firmness. Like you can deliver that in a loving way that
Yes.
still holds your boundaries. And I would say, okay, what's coming through is, have these conversations. Try to have some of these conversations. If there's an area of your life that you know that there's a boundary that you would really like to set, rather than waiting till you get triggered by it and then trying to have a discussion, which usually turns into an argument, is, approaching this person and setting aside some time to talk with them when you are both in a non-triggered space, I would say is one of the ways that you can do this, setting boundaries in a healthy and in that loving way.
Yes, absolutely. Firm doesn't necessarily mean like yelling, or firm can be, when I think about being firm with my kids, it can mean I need to remind them multiple times, or maybe it's time for them to put away their tablets. That screen time can be something that's really tough, right? And so it'd be like, hey, you know what? This is done. It's time to put it away. And it might be multiple reminders. And then it might be, I see you're having a lot of troubles with this, so I'm going to take it and put it away for you. And that can be one of the ways that firm shows up, and maintaining that boundary. But it doesn't necessarily mean that I am yelling or just ripping or punishing and threatening. There are compassionate ways to hold that firmness, for sure.
Yes, love it. Oh, those tablets.
Well, and we have to understand it, right? Because I mean, how many of us as adults are like holding our phones in front of our face all day? I mean,
Yep.
it's understandable. Even adults have difficulties putting their
Oh, yeah.
tablets or screens away at
Yep. Totally. Yeah.
yeah.
We're all guilty to some degree.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this discussion. Um, we hope that you have found ways to help you identify your fear. Where are you maybe feeling unworthy, and how can you step into that worthiness? And maybe redefining what power looks like to help you step into your power. We hope to see you in the activation soon.